The last international break before the 2026 World Cup has concluded, and while the likes of Iraq, Bosnia, and DR Congo made history by qualifying for the World Cup, the hypocrisy of Gianni Infantino, the FIFA president, and the football governing body continues, affecting international football negatively. Welcome to today's video, guys. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the international break, the just concluded one, the last one ahead of the 2026 World Cup, as well as specializing on Gianni Infantino's actions and inactions, as well as, him representing the football governing body FIFA ahead of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. And I'm really going to go into it by saying that, I think it is quite funny that the FIFA president Gianni Infantino can come out and say that football and FIFA cannot solve the world's problems, and very, very hypocritical, I would say. Meanwhile, at every other event, he's with the US President Donald Trump wearing a red America hat and obviously showing where his loyalties lie. And what I find really funny about this is that when you come out as FIFA president to say that football cannot solve all of the world's problems, but in 2022, just shortly after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Russia got banned from international football. Russian clubs got banned from participating in club football in Europe. Now, everybody knows what has been happening in Gaza, in Palestine, for the past, many number of years. But up until now, Israel has not been banned from participating whether in UEFA or in FIFA competitions. It is already a bad look that Israel cannot even play football in the Middle East, and they play in UEFA competitions. They barely qualify for any national team competitions. But yet, Israel has not been banned yet. And they were actually supposed to sit on this topic. But all of a sudden, that discussion flew out of the window and they never had it. That discussion never saw the light of day. Now, let's look at this thing properly. In the light of recent, geopolitical issues, especially with the conflict in the Middle East and Iran in particular. Iran is a country that has qualified for the World Cup, right? Now, whatever you want to say about Iran and whatever has been going on before America or the United States involvement, active involvement, and further involvement that has been promised to come, is up for debate, right? But there is no, make no mistake about it, there is no way this is not comical, right? That a host country of a World Cup is actively bombing a participating country of that World Cup. And now the participating country has been talking to FIFA saying that, they are not sure whether they can play in the World Cup because Iran's games are supposed to be played in the USA, right? And even much so that, initially Infantino came out to say, oh, Iran will be okay to go to the World Cup, there won't be any issues. And initially we thought, well, okay, that will be the case, at least on the end of the leadership of the US. All for the US President Donald Trump to come out and say, and I can't quote everything he said verbatim, but he literally put out a social media post where he said, Iran, in their best interest, they probably should not come to the World Cup and blah, blah, blah for their own safety. And I'm like, as surprising as that sounds, it's also kind of not surprising because, that's Trump being Trump, right? But you as FIFA now, can't now come out and say, well, can't like, I don't know. I just feel like the feeling that I get is that FIFA is not looking to see Iran's concerns beyond, oh, this is a World Cup and it must happen. And it's almost like FIFA doesn't have any plans FIFA never planned for stuff like this. Anyways, but Iran has basically, to kind of summarize all of this, Iran has been, according to reports, talking to FIFA to move their games that were scheduled to be in the US to Mexico. FIFA has said, well, that might not exactly be possible. And apparently Infantino, wants everybody to believe that Iran will be safe in the USA and there will be no issues. But Trump is saying another thing. And Infantino is supposed to be Trump's best buddy, but obviously Infantino is a novice. He doesn't know anything. He's being played because Trump is being Trump. Trump is telling you in clear terms that it is not in Iran's best interest to come to the World Cup in the US. Infantino is trying to play it's trying to be diplomatic about it, so you can see that this issue is not, something that anybody should take lightly. And honestly, Iran will probably pull out, and if they can't pull out, whether they'll play in the USA, it remains to be seen. But this issue is not going away anytime soon, right? So let me go to another issue here and say that the ticket prices and the immigration issues continue to be a problem. Now, recently, the last phase of ticket sales went on sale about a few days ago at the time of recording this video, a few days before recording this video, right? And apparently, FIFA now increased the highest the highest value ticket for the World Cup final is on sale for close to $10,000. Obviously, not a regular ticket, like the best ticket you can get, basically, which is very crazy, and obviously it's in the US. So I think a couple of other ticket prices went up. So I mean, obviously this has always been an issue from the first time the tickets went on sale last year up until this year. And so I've talked about this in some of my previous videos, where I basically talked about how FIFA said, okay, FIFA saw like the concerns of fans from all over the world, and the best they could come up with was saying that they introduced what they call a supporter entry tier ticket, which is basically a percentage of the tickets in a stadium, a very small percentage of the tickets in a stadium. By the time you do all the maths, average tickets per match is about 400 tickets, and they hand it to the federations of all 48 participating teams for all their national teams games, basically. And they say they should allocate it to the most loyal supporters of that country at a discount price. Those tickets are at a discount price, and that was the best FIFA could do. Nothing else that has been said about it. So this is obviously not going away. So I mean, a lot of people who have been going to previous World Cups before are going to be priced out of this World Cup easily, especially if your national team is playing in the US. Maybe Mexico will probably be the cheapest place to go. So for neutrals who are going to watch the World Cup, and their country is not participating, they can probably go and watch. They can probably go to Mexico. Obviously, the Mexican visa will probably be easier as well. And so a lot of football is a working class sport, and that's what has made the sport so popular in the world. But you see, with the World Cup, I think FIFA is making a statement with the price of ticket sales, and again, it's a thing where they've seen that the US, you can make a lot of money in the US by hosting stuff in the US, so they are trying to really take advantage of as much as they can. And so by doing that, they've forgotten, I think, the core of what makes football so popular, that it's a very accessible sport. It's not as expensive to watch as other sports as well on average. But with this World Cup, I feel like FIFA is making a statement that if you're not very boxed up financially, the World Cup is not for you. And obviously, the immigration issues are obviously still on the front burner. Like I've said, Mexico is probably going to be easier to go to, visa wise, expense wise, and in terms of the immigration, obviously everybody that keeps up with international news knows what has been happening in the US in the past couple of months. And it's been crazy. But it's even now they're saying they're going to deploy this these rogue agents. I'm not going to call their name. These rogue agents that have been going around, have been responsible for the murder of 2 people, right, to the airport. So a couple of World Cup fans might be having some issues at the airports and all of that for the people going to the US. So there's a lot of things that I think are going to really, really affect people's perceptions about what this tournament, or how this tournament is going to be spoken about after it's all said and done, outside of the football parts. I'm still obviously looking forward to it as a football fan. The World Cup is very, very special to me. But I'm not going to lie, in the USA, I'm not going to be surprised by certain incidents. So I really, really hope that everything goes smoothly. But America is a country that could be chaotic at times. So especially with this number of people coming in the present regime and all of that. So I think as far as that goes, it's I hate to say this, but people should probably expect the worst in the US. Yeah, they should expect the worst, but obviously, I hope nothing happens to football fans, that they have a safe trip going there and all of that. So, let me go to a more happy topic, depending on which country I'm talking about. Obviously, there have been some standout moments from the international break. Some countries, made history by qualifying for the World Cup. I'm going to start with Bosnia, of course, who got past Italy, and the manner in which they did it and what it meant also for the despair it meant for the Italians was crazy. Italy, might have thought at the start of the game that, okay, this is it. We are finally breaking the jinx of not qualifying for 2 consecutive World Cups, and we are not going to be the first past winner that has failed to qualify for 3 consecutive World Cups. He scored first in the game, but I think they conceded, and they also got a red card, and from there on it was just all Bosnia, And then it's I watching that game, I just had a feeling that Italy is not a team that this present Italian side is not a team that can hold their own with a man down. And funny enough, the match did go to penalties, but Bosnia eventually came out on top. And what it meant for people in Bosnia, seeing a very, very long street filled with tens of thousands of fans, and then remembering that a certain player who had not won the World Cup before, whose name happens to be Cristiano Ronaldo, a man-child, said, "Oh, it is just a 7-game tournament," because he was not the one who got to lift that prestigious trophy, and he saw it live. Someone else who he says, oh, they're best, they're who apparently every now and then he might say they're best, they're okay with each other, but he clearly has some form of rivalry in his mind towards the person who he saw lifting that trophy. The World Cup means so much more to people, and it was crazy. And on the Italian side, Italy had to lick their wounds. Gennaro Gattuso, the coach, has resigned. Gianluigi Buffon has resigned from his post in the technical setup. A lot of things. I think the Italian FA president has also resigned. So a lot of resignations since the past couple of days. So a lot of things going on. I think the Italian football needs to undergo a rebirth. There is just this idea that they've been sticking to for so long, this 3-5-2. And if you watch Serie A a lot, you see it with so many teams. They play that same formation, and it's like, well, this is no longer the Italy of old, where you have these 3 big and rugged defenders and all of that. First of all, like, the strength of Italy has largely been in defense over the past, I'll say, 20 years. And even now, what they used to be strong at, they are not even really that strong at it. And then going forward, which I think is their biggest problem, they don't really have any threatening or any imposing forwards these days. No wing. It's so hard to think about, for example, an Italian winger that is really, really, like, that is even average compared to, like, other top players in Europe. And that's one place that I think they are really, really lacking. Wingers, even strikers. But for me, majorly wingers, like, I can't really think of any standout Italian winger. If you ask me to name an English winger, I'll easily call Rashford. I'll easily call Sancho. I'll easily call, players for you. If you ask me to name a Spanish winger, I'll easily call Lamine Yamal. It comes easy for me. If you ask me to name a Brazilian winger, I'll easily call Vinicius. But for Italy, it's not, for a country that's supposed to be really top. If you ask me to call a French winger, obviously Mbappe is there, But for Italy, I can think for 10 minutes and no significant name comes to mind. So I think Italy is lacking in some areas. There's some gaps that need to be filled up in the way they are developing players, and hopefully for them, they get it right. Also, the fact that the coach of Italy, the Italian FA president, Gianluigi Buffon, as well, they've all resigned from their roles in the whole setup, is something we should note, because here in Nigeria, the NFF, whether we go to the World Cup, whether we don't go to the World Cup, we've missed out on 2 consecutive ones now. No heads will roll, nothing will happen. Everybody in that glass house will still be there and still be collecting money and still be saying that they don't have money. So that's the reason they are owing coaches, and that's the reason they are owing everybody, like everybody else except people that work in that glass house. So we can see that in other climes there's repercussions for bad results. In Nigeria, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Anyways, so let's leave that, go to Iraq. Iraq was also a very significant, something that very significant qualification for them. The Lions of Mesopotamia, as they are known to be called. They had not been at the World Cup for about 40 something years, I think 40 years or so. And it was also very significant because the country has also been, since the last time Iraq has been at the World Cup, the country has been in a lot of turmoil. The country has been through a lot, basically. And seeing, for everyday people, I can imagine in that country, seeing their country's flag, at the biggest stage in the world, at the biggest sporting events in the world, means a lot, gives hope to a lot of people. So they really did well. They got past Bolivia, who are by no means a small fry, but probably the worst team in South America at the moment. They got past Bolivia. I expected Bolivia to win that game, but Iraq on that day, they came to play, and congratulations to them. And the last country I'm going to be spotlighting in this stand-up moment of mine from international break is DR Congo. Obviously, we got past Nigeria in the playoffs. Some people might say, why are you talking about DR Congo? Are you, but I've forgotten about that loss a long time ago, and I never really put it in mind. And then even when the whole case of Nigeria submitting a complaint to FIFA about the ineligibility case, I always just felt from the start that this was something that would not end up in Nigeria. Like, there's no way this would favor Nigeria eventually. And even I don't even know what happened, but I don't think FIFA even eventually came up with a public statement. There were just like some insider statement that basically mentioned that first off, Nigeria submitted the petition late, and then there's some things that they're supposed to do that they didn't do and all of that. So whether or not FIFA was even going to rule was not even going to happen. So that was already a dead rubber issue. And then DR Congo obviously went to the playoffs and got past Jamaica in a really probably tight game. Yeah, and they got past Jamaica 1-0 in the playoffs. And the last time DR Congo qualified for the World Cup was when they were known as Zaire in 1974 or so, 1978. I can't remember. I was obviously not born there, so how do I know? But it was like close to 50 years now. So it's been a really, really long time. And I saw videos from when you see videos of multitudes of people who have a reason to smile because of this beautiful game that we all love. It's, even as a neutral, it moves you, it makes you happy. So I think, obviously, like I said, the World Cup means so much to many people, and there's a reason why, no matter what, certain influential figures in the game, certain influential bodies in the game, no matter the things they try to do or the things they do not do, no matter the actions or inactions that could possibly, impact game negatively, the sports is bigger than these people. The sport is bigger than these organizations. The sport is bigger than FIFA. It's bigger than UEFA. So there is nobody that can claim the ownership of football. It is bigger than anything else. Even the country that invented football, so-called, have not even won the most World Cups, by the way, So it tells you that football has gone far global than any other sports. And so, just seeing videos from countries, people dancing, playing music, and and the reason for their joy being the fact that their country, a group of 23 players or 26 players are representing an entire country of 10, 15, 20, 50 or 100 million or whatever population in their country, 20 something, a group of 20 something people is representing that number of hundreds of thousands or even millions of people. It's wonderful. And yeah, so those were the countries whose qualifications I would say top 3 stood out for me from the international break. And yeah, that's where I bring today's video to a close. Obviously I've been talking about a lot of international football recently. But hopefully in my next video I will touch on some club football. So look out for that. And thank you guys for watching. Thank you to all my subscribers for rocking with me so far. And if you like this video, Please share to all football fans and all sports fans and everybody basically. And until I record my next video, guys, it's bye for now. Ciao.